Hello my crafty friends, this is Monica from Allsewpetite. Welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this super fast and easy drawstring pouch. You can make them in various different sizes and they are so easy and quick to make. I like to make very tiny one for something like maybe a jewelry if I want to grab a couple of pieces if I go, let's say, on a weekend away, and slightly larger one for either my craft or sewing supplies, or something like a dust bag for my handmade bags or even shoes. So I've got some shoes that I always keep outside, but obviously I don't use them every day, so I like to keep them in one of those bags to protect them from sun, from dust and so on. So if you want to learn how to make those very quick drawstring pouches, then gather your supplies and let's get started. To make your drawstring pouch, you will need to cut one long rectangle from your desired fabric. Make sure to use either plain fabric or fabric with non-directional print. Otherwise, if you use fabric with directional print, your print will run correctly on one side, but on the other side of your pouch it will be upside down because the fabric is folded along the bottom edge. If you really want to use directional print, then add a seam along the bottom. This way you can cut two pieces, your front and your back, in the correct direction and then sew your pouch. But for the purpose of this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create one piece drawstring pouch, just like this one. You can make this pouch in any size you want. To find out exactly what size of a rectangle you need to cut, you'll need to decide the width and the height of your finished pouch. Then add 3 centimeters to the overall width of your pouch and also add 2.5 centimeters to the top edge. If you are using directional print, then you will also need to add 1.5 centimeter seam allowance along the bottom edge and then cut your fabric twice. But if, like me, you are making one piece drawstring pouch, then what you need to do is to take the height of your pouch, add that 2.5 centimeters along the top and then double the height because the fabric is folded along the bottom edge. So you need twice the length basically. And you only need to cut it once. To begin, grab a ruler and measure 1.5 centimeter from the side edge and then draw a line like so. Do that on the other side as well. Then you're going to measure 4 centimeters from the top edge. So make sure everything is parallel to the top or the bottom edge of your rectangle. And then draw a line inside your seam allowance. So you don't have to draw entire line. Just inside the seam allowance is more than enough. You're going to do exactly the same thing on the other end of your rectangle. Then grab scissors and snip the fabric diagonally towards the intersection of those two lines. Just like that. Don't go more than your seam allowance. You are only snipping your fabric inside seam allowance. And the angle, it doesn't really matter that much. So this is what it should look like. Next, you can take this to the pressing station, flip your panel to the back, like so. Then you're going to fold this cutout twice to create nice and neat finish. And you've got that line which shows you exactly how to fold it. So if you want, you can fold it just once by 1.5 centimeter because that's the seam allowance, but I actually prefer to do it twice so I know that my fabric won't fray later on. And you can press that fold nice and flat Do that on the other side as well. So again, it is your choice if you want to fold it once or twice. Here we go. You need to do the same thing on the other side. Then when you are ready, you can take this to the machine and top stitch those short edges along the inner fold line. So not close here, you are top stitching along the first fold. So if you folded it twice, then top stitch close to that edge. What I like to do is to start at the point of that triangle, not at the edge of my fabric, just so later when we actually create our tunnel, our top stitching across the pouch and along the sides will be leveled. So that's just a tip I wanted to share with you. Here we go, this is what it should look like. So now what you want to do is to grab your ruler again, draw a line that is 2 centimeters away from the top edge. So I actually cannot see my line. Let me just grab different color pen and try that again. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So I don't know if you can see that line, but I have my line just here. Then what you want to do is to fold the fabric. So this is the wrong side of the fabric. You're going to bring the top edge towards that line. So you are basically making a 1 centimeter fold. And then press that fold with an iron. Here we go. Then we're going to press our top edge one more time, but this time we are going to create 1.5 centimeter fold. So if you want, you can use this triangle cutout here as a guideline to bring that down. Otherwise, grab a ruler and measure 3 centimeters and draw a guideline for yourself, just to ensure you are folding the fabric precisely. Fold the edge, press it flat, here we go. Do that on the other side of your pouch as well. Then you can take this to the machine and top stitch along that first folded edge. Again, very close to the edge, just to anchor it in place. And that's how we create the tunnel for our drawstring. Here we go, this is what it looks like. So next, what you want to do is to bring those little triangles down. So you are folding them right sides together, like so. I like to give this fabric a little bit of press as well. You're going to do that on the other side as well. Repeat on the other side of your pouch. When you are ready, fold your pouch in half, wrong sides together. line up your top edges, line up those little triangle ears, then line up and clip your pouch along the side edges. Here we go. Next, you can take this to the machine and sew the seam on both sides using 5mm seam allowance. Once you've got those two seams stitched, if you've got any fluff, if you've got any thread or your fabric started to fray, it is best to clean up the edge. So I'm just going to take my ruler and cut any of that fluff. Do that on both sides. When you are ready, you can turn your pouch right side out. Make sure your corners are nice and sharp. So if you have to use a corner shaper, chopstick, or any other tool that you prefer, then what I like to do is to press the seam allowance to one side. So I'm just going to press my seam allowance like so. It doesn't really matter which direction. What I found that if I press the seam allowance to one side first and then I press the seam flat, my seam is nice and straight. Here we go. Then place your pouch flat and you can press your seam allowance and your seam to keep it nice and flat. If you don't press your seam in two steps like what I've just done, then what I found is that sometimes the seam can roll inside, and when you press your fabric you kind of get a wavy, uneven seam. So that's why it's always best to press the seam allowance to one side and then you can press your seam nice and flat. Otherwise, you can always roll the fabric between your fingers just to bring the stitching to the top. That also helps. All right, next, when you are ready, you can take your pouch to the machine one more time and then sew the seam again. Here we go, just like that. Go ahead, turn your pouch right side out. Again, push those corners out. Double check if your seams don't have any fluff. And when you are happy with everything, you can press your seams nice and flat. So again, I'm going to do that in two steps. I'm going to press my seam allowance to one side. Here we go. Then press the seams flat. And lastly, we need to insert our cord, elastic or drawstring through the tunnel around our pouch. So what I like to do is to use bodkin to help me feed this cord through the tunnel. And what you need to do is to start on one side, go around the entire pouch, and then you're going to do that one more time on the opposite side. So let me show you. So I'm going to insert my bodkin on one side. If you don't have bodkin, you can use safety pin or other tools that would help you fit that cord. So use whatever tool you prefer. Here we go. So that's once. I'm going to cut my cord, and what I like to do is to tie a knot at the end, so I don't have to worry about this cord fraying, because as you can see, it unravels really, really quickly. So I'll just pull that taut to secure that knot in place. You can leave as short or as long of a tail as you prefer. I typically leave a tail that is about 5-6 centimeters long. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing but on the other side. So again, grab your cord and your tool. You're going to feed your cord on one side. Go around your pouch. Here we go. I'm going to cut any excess and then tie a knot to secure my cord in place. And just like that, you've created your drawstring pouch. Well done! I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this project, if you're going to give it a try. Otherwise, I shall see you in the next video. Stay crafty, friends. Bye!